Good morning, everyone. Before we begin the show, I wanted to give you a little bit of a background of who I am and why I feel that I'm qualified to talk about this subject today on the Dog Connection Show. My name is Kathy Tarochione, and I have been involved in animal welfare for well over 58 years. I've run a shelter known as Save a Pet in Palatine, Illinois, and I was able to raise over $2 million for a new shelter, and I received a humanitarian award for my efforts. Now, I've also run a foster program and I've also run a rescue. So I have a lot of experience, and I'm also known as a dog influencer because I've been able to help many shelters, rescues, fosters in defining exactly what their mission is and how to have a solution for rescuing animals and saving lives. Now, I have been involved with Barkhouse as a volunteer for the public relations and the marketing efforts that are necessary to have Barkhouse operate. Barkhouse is a unique program. It's a program that has been around in the Las Cruces area for a little over 5 years, but I think many of you are not familiar with what Barkhouse is all about. So today we're going to be going over that in the show itself, and we'll also be going over some of the issues that you've had regarding Barkhouse and the sole source contract. We're not in a position at this point to be able to go over all of the details. So that's why I've arranged with my partners on the Dog Connection show to have a series of shows over the next week or so. Actually, more than a week, probably more like 2 to 3 weeks. And we're going to be talking about rescues and shelters and what the responsibilities are and why there's so much controversy all the time. What I really don't understand, folks, is why would you want to destroy a rescue who is doing good? If you know for certain that they are not doing good and you're able to document it and put it into writing and certify and validate, then I totally understand that. But there's always two sides to a story. So why didn't Barkhouse come forward? Well, we're going to go into that as well, too. They did come forward at many different times, but you just never saw them. So why don't you open your eyes now? And let's all sit back and relax. And we're going to talk about what the Barkhouse Sole Source program is about, why it became necessary to have it in this area. And we're also going to look at some testimonials of people that have come forward and said, you know what, enough is enough. Enough of the naysayers, enough of the haters. We're here to serve a purpose, and that is to save the animals. Now, the way Barkhouse does that is a unique way. And because of that, the county actually saw Barkhouse as an avenue to be able to reduce the pet overpopulation and to start to eliminate dogs being put into the shelter. Now, if you don't think that's a good thing, then maybe you should have come up with a solution as well. If you didn't come up with anything, then I don't understand what it is that you're trying to destroy. Any rescue, any organization that comes forward and is willing to save lives in a unique manner or in any manner. I don't care if it's an individual. I don't care if it's a person that is part of an organization, but anyone that's coming to save animals, they deserve credit and they deserve your respect. And they also deserve your support. So here we are looking at why Barkhouse got the sole source contract, as well as diffuse some of the problems that you have. I'm not going to go into the personal issues because you know why? That has absolutely nothing to do with the contract. If you feel it does, if you feel you don't have any skeletons in your backyard, then I understand. But for those of you that do have skeletons and you don't want to have stones thrown at your glass house, well, then I suggest you step aside. I do want to give you some parameters about this show. We absolutely 100% will not tolerate any profanity, any name calling, any mudslinging, any backstabbing. That is not what this show is about. This show is about clarity. This show is about understanding, and the show is about awareness. So please stay tuned, and we will be with you very shortly. And hey, let's set the record straight, okay? Okay, so here we are. Now we're live. There was a little switch there. Good morning, everyone. I wanted to do that beginning because I wanted to get out what I wanted to say and before people started asking questions and we went into things. But most importantly today, this morning, what we're going to talk about is, like I just said, about clarity. One thing I wanted to do is I wanted to throw out some kudos to politicians. I think we all know that politicians generally don't like to stick their neck out. They don't like to make commitments. They don't like to back any organization or any individual because sometimes they're afraid about their constituency, etc. But in this case, I do want to really say kudos and thank you for stepping up to Joanne Ferrari. I want to read an op-ed that is going into the newspapers that she is putting out. And this is based on, I think it's more of a rebuttal than anything else to Peter Goodman's op-ed. And so I'm just going to read it to you so that you can see this and you'll be able to see it in the paper. I'm not sure when it's going out. But she says, and I'm reading this. So she says, there are too many times when you want to put your reputation on the line for another person, especially as an elected official. But this is one time and for an important issue that I am willing to do so. The pet overpopulation and humane treatment of dogs and cats in our community has been an ongoing problem for far too long. We have been nibbling at the edges of the right solutions, but never getting to take a comprehensive and concentrated bite at the cause for over a decade now. The Barkhouse and Kelly Barker's team have been providing different solutions for over 5 years and deserves the support the county is trying to provide in order to accomplish an extraordinary pilot project. Once implemented, it will dramatically increase spay and neuter clinics throughout Doña County, provide continuous transport of healthy animals to other communities that have already figured out how to control pet population, provide microchipping on a massive scale, and provide litter support and adoption solutions to an enormous number of pet litters until we get ahead of the spay and neuter issue. I have put my heart and soul into this issue this past decade, first as part of the Pets and People Coalition, then working on legislation to collect a higher pet label food fee, and also to financially support the efforts of our local shelters task force. Nevertheless, a comprehensive solution with the impact that is needed to nip the overpopulation problem in the bud has eluded us. The Barkhouse project is the solution. We need to stop the petty accusations by the animal rescue groups who, despite their positive efforts, nevertheless are at odds with one of the best opportunities our community has had to address this problem, and join in to support a desperately needed and comprehensive model pilot program that Barkhouse has been developing and promoting. If you can't be part of the solution, get out of the way of progress. This is a great way for the county to target their funds and reap huge savings in this costly effort to humanely control our pet population and set a good example for the city and other New Mexico communities. Okay, again, thank you. Thank you so much, Joanne, for that. I also have, and I'm going to put this up here. Let's see, we got to come. Okay. Oh, okay. We got Darcy's here, Joanne's here, Ron's here. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here this morning. Get back to this. We also have a letter that came, for those of you, if you don't know Vic and Terry Polis, they are like pillars of the community. Vic is an attorney, and he has been donating to Barkhouse, over the last 5 years. Both of them have. So they have their own perspective, and I'd like to read to you what they had to say. They said, let's see. Actually, they sent this to the attorney at the county. My wife, Teresa, and I are writing this letter in support of Kelly Barker. We met with Kelly and Coco Dean last year, and they presented their business plan. We were thoroughly impressed by her passion, commitment, and vision to make a difference in this community. We have witnessed through Sunland Park Animal Control the countless dogs that she has saved and facilitated the transport of to amazing rescues in other states. If not for Kelly, these little souls would have been euthanized. We strongly feel is imperative that she continue her good work. We also know of her plan to reduce the overpopulation of dogs and cats through her spay-neuter program, which is essential in this much needed and underserved area. We also support her relationship with Dog as My Co-Pilot. Kelly has shared her contract with them and connected them to El Paso Animal Services. Countless animals from El Paso Animal Services have been saved due to Kelly's hard work. We will continue to support Barkhouse as we have in the past with our donations. We strongly endorse and support Kelly Barker. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. For those of you that were at the commissioners' meetings, you saw that there were a lot of testimonials and there were a lot of people that were in support of Barkhouse. And then there were many of them that were not in support. So today we want to talk about what are some of those issues. And I have to read some of these. Okay, you have a problem with the sole source contract. Let me make clear that the sole source contract was the county wanting to do a sole source. We do not have a contract at this point. When I say we, because I'm a volunteer for Barkhouse, and I consider myself part of the team. I'm a Barkhouse believer. We do not have a contract, but is it in negotiation? Yes. And is there going to be a contract? Yes, there is. There absolutely is. Even though all of the efforts to try and naysay and the haters and everyone that came forward, trust me, the contract is going through. The county has done their due diligence. The county has looked at all of the issues that you have brought up, and not one of them are really substantiated to the extent where it would affect the contract or the performance of the contract over the next, well, actually, we hope to have the contract indefinitely, at least for 5 years. Now, let me see. There was also the issue about that there was input put into the plan and to the contract. No, there wasn't. Why? Because the contract isn't even there yet. So there was no input. Will we have input from this point forward now that it's been awarded? Absolutely. But the plan itself, the plan was there before. There was no need to have to create a plan. So we don't understand what that issue is about. In terms of Uncaged Paws, which is doing the 501c3 doing business as Barkhouse. Barkhouse, Uncaged Paws is a legitimate 501c3. It has been in existence for 10 years. Yes, it was incorporated in Florida. It was reincorporated in New Mexico. It is a 501c3. It is not in violation. If you check with any of the charity organizations, you will see it's not in violation. Barkhouse is a name that is going to be Barkhouse is going to be, I'm sorry, Uncaged Paws is going to be changed to Barkhouse because it's a better fitting name. It still is Uncaged Paws doing business as Barkhouse. In terms of anti-donation violation, there is no anti-donation violation because the contract is not specifically going to be managed by Barkhouse. It's specifically going to be managed by a for-profit entity. Okay, there was a question about why wouldn't Barkhouse come forward regarding the issue of all of these issues, and it was told that it was for legal reasons. Well, here's the deal. There were so many, and I can tell you that I documented well over 200 screenshots of people that were coming forward with false accusations, some really terrible mudslinging, folks. I mean, mudslinging to the point where calling out names that I don't even want to repeat on the air. Some of them were really, really vicious. it got to the point where there were so many of them, and it got so far, and there were just a few people that specifically did all the mudslinging. But when they did that, it created a legal issue, and that was when there was no choice but to retain an attorney and do a cease and desist based on the erroneous, false information, mudslinging, cyberbullying, and libel. So that's what the cease and desist was about. And based on the legal advice, it was suggested not to give any public comments. That's clearly because the journalists and the reporters and people that were wanting to investigate, we all know, we all watch the news, don't we? You get on the news and somehow it gets twisted around. So why even subject Barkhouse to that? Why even get involved in the minutia of the verbal vomit that was coming out of everybody's mouth? So it was more important that the integrity of Barkhouse be maintained. Barkhouse is a wonderful entity that has provided just some miraculous things in helping animals for a long period of time. Okay, so let's see. Then Barkhouse, one of the issues was Barkhouse is absolutely not qualified to handle animals because they have no background. Wait a minute, folks. Barkhouse has transported over 5,000 dogs and cats in the last 5 years to areas where those animals were adopted with some within a day, some were pre-adopted before they even got there, and some were adopted with no longer than 2 weeks. How many animals stay in the shelter here for a long period of time? How many of them are not adoptable? How many of them get transferred out to a rescue? And if you think about the logic of how a shelter works, the shelter takes the dog in, the shelter transfer it out to the rescue. Think of the logic of this, folks. The shelter is the one that gets the money from the county and from the city to manage and to take care of the animals, to vet them, and to adopt them out. Rather than adopting them out, because I understand there was COVID, they go to the rescue. And my heart goes out to you rescues, because I know personally, I know what it's like to have to run a rescue. There's a lot of heartache. There's a lot of risk. There's an awful lot to saving lives. There absolutely is. Saving lives requires a certain type of mentality. It requires money, and it requires medical, and it requires a lot of tender, loving care. So sometimes do animals come in and they're sick? Of course they do. Of course they're sick animals. Sometimes you don't know where they came from. They could have been in the desert, particularly pregnant moms. Those moms, you never ever know where they came from and what's happening with them. And there's always a risk of losing them. There's always a risk of having issues that they just might not make it. That's part of rescue, folks. You can't mudsling. You can't say, well, that person caused or deliberately sent a sick animal. Nobody wants to send a sick animal. And shame on all of you for even thinking that that was the case of deliberately sending out sick animals. Where is your heart at? Where are you coming from? Aren't we in this all together? That's what I think anyway. That's just my opinion. So in terms of sick animals, in terms of people that are not coming forward and identifying with what good Barkhouse has really done. And let me ask you this. At any time in the last 5 years, have any of you rescues used Barkhouse or Uncaged Paws for any services? Have you transported out any of your animals? Have you used, have any of people come to the microchipping and vaccinations? Have any of you had a pregnant mom, or have you requested that Barkhouse take in a pregnant mom or a mom with puppies or even puppies? Have you ever asked Barkhouse to pull an animal? And by the way, I might add that, and many have said that Barkhouse isn't pulling animals from the shelter because it doesn't have a contract. Here's why Barkhouse does not have a contract. First off, it's not a rescue. It's a a pet overpopulation solution provider. Barkhouse does not have a contract with the county, with the shelter, for one reason, for one main reason, and that's because in their agreement, it is suggested that, or it says that they give the pregnant moms a live vaccine that may harm the animal, may harm the puppies. Well, why would we want to take a risk of that? We really don't want to take on any more puppies or any more mamas that could possibly, the puppies could die. And why is that important? Because it happened. It happened. And these are things that are just devastating when you see a mama give birth and then all the puppies die, and it's directly related to a live vaccine. So if that's the case, Barkhouse doesn't want to enter into an agreement with having a shelter that, of course, is going to give a live vaccine, unless, of course, we can work out an arrangement where pregnant moms would not be given the live vaccine. Okay, I see there's a comment here. Oh, Darcy says very true. I don't remember what part was very true, but okay. So now let's see. And is Barkhouse qualified? Well, let's look at, are you looking at one person or are you looking at the entire team? Because Barkhouse has a team of qualified people that have a background in animal welfare, sheltering, veterinarians, etc. We have people on the team. Some are volunteers, some will be employees. Right now, Barkhouse is 100% volunteers, 100%. And for the last 8 months, Barkhouse has been providing volunteer services to help the county at the county building with their county animals, in providing volunteers and actually paying some people, like if somebody was going to do your yard or something, or do your grass, thank you so much, almost like a tip kind of thing. Thanks for helping out. We really appreciate it. We're doing what we can with what we have because we knew that it was necessary to help these animals. What was the alternative? They would have been spayed out at the shelter. And for as a little known secret that a lot of you don't know, that a lot of shelters, what they do, they concentrate. The purpose of a shelter in a lot of areas has been this no kill, no kill, no kill, and to some extent that has not been really beneficial, because the shelter will look at those numbers and say, we want to get down to a 90% no kill. And in order to do that, here's how we have to look at what euthanasia represents. Well, if you have a pregnant mom and you spay her out and you euthanize those puppies, particularly if they are at a point where they're just about ready to whelp, then those puppies are fully formed. So instead, what a lot of the shelters do is they spay the mom, but they leave the puppies in the sack to suffocate. Now, who wants that to happen? And it's a little known secret that not too many people talk about, but I'm here to talk about it, because let's clear the air, folks. Let's let it out. Okay, the next area that we want to talk about is sole source. Why would you go sole source? Well, I have a graph here, and anybody that wants to object to it or wants to say, gee, that's not true, please. I created this graph, so I'm taking full responsibility. I created it for Barkhouse based on the information that I was given. This graph is based on high volume spay neuter. Oh, and by the way, okay, let me back up. Let me address the spay neuter issue. Everyone's talking about, we were going to pay Lauren Short, Dr. Short, $9,000 per week. That was part of the original proposal because we were bringing in a vet. In order to have sole source, we need to have the vet being needs to be in the area providing high volume, low cost spay neuter services. So we're bringing a vet in, and once that vet is in here, then we will be operating all of the services simultaneously. In the interim, we felt that we could use Dr. Short, which graciously came forward and said, I'll help you out until Muka comes here, and here are my fees. It was just that simple, folks. It was nothing secretive about it. Now, Dr. Short is at a point where she may or may not be able to help on that end because her time is limited. But will she help? Yes, she has agreed that she will. So getting into what Soul Source is about in terms of the services, it wasn't about looking at different pieces and then trying to put them all together through different rescues. It was one source, one place, which was Barkhouse. And based on high volume spay neuter and high volume transport. That's not to say that you all don't transport. We know you do. But do you do high volume? Do you have a rescue, or do you have transport services that are available through Dog is My Co-Pilot or Pet Rescue Pilots? Or actually, now Barkhouse has secured a volunteer physician who is a pilot as well. She has purchased a plane, and she has now branded it and dedicated it specifically for Barkhouse's use. Now, who has that? If you have that here, that would be great. So Barkhouse then be based on all of these transport services, as well as Barkhouse purchasing its own ground transport. So it has ground transport, it has relay transport, or what we call the, what's the word I want to use? Like a shuttle, like a shuttle from one part of New Mexico. So Barkhouse will be able to transport from one part to another of New Mexico. Once we're able to do that, then we've got the long flights, which are out to the Pacific Northwest. And in those cases, those are the large animals. So based on averages, Barkhouse is able to transport approximately 120 dogs per month, and that's cats as well, but the cats are a separate flight sometimes, but mostly it's dogs, because the big dogs, especially the older ones, they need some place where it's almost impossible to get them adopted here. So once that happens, we look at high volume transport services that is a combination of ground as well as air transport in high volume. If you can do that, then that would be great. We'd love for you to join in with Barkhouse. Nobody's saying that we don't want to work with you. Absolutely we do. But let's look at this chart. Okay, now if you look at this chart, we've broken down some of the rescues in the area, the ASCMV, the Action Program for Animals, Cherish Canine, I'm Almost Home, the Humane Society of Southern New Mexico. And if I didn't put some of you in there, I'm totally sorry. I don't mean to be remiss. I will make this graphic available for all of you to look at. And as you can see, what we're looking at here is Barkhouse is able to accommodate all of the specific areas that the county had requested. It's really just that simple. That's all I can really say. Let me see here. Okay. Darcy has a comment here. She says, I watched the commissioners meeting the other day along with the county manager. What I was impressed with is that your county manager paid an unexpected and unannounced visit to the shelter where Barkhouse is operating. I watched the video. That place is cleaner than my own home. You could eat off the floor. It was so spotless, and this was a surprise visit. Smart move on the county manager's part. That was Mr. Macias, as you remember, folks. If any of you watched the last commissioners meeting, you'll see that they had a crew that came in and took a video of the cleanliness and how the puppies were there. By the way, there's 18 moms, and there's about 120 puppies that are getting ready for transport that are currently at the Griggs building. And I think what Mr. Macias really wanted to do was to show that there's no uncleanliness. They are not being mistreated. They are being treated very well. They're being cared for by Barkhouse volunteers. And I think that really is about it. So in response to anything else, what I'm more curious than anything, and if anybody out there can say to me, tell me what it is. What is it that you want? Do you want to destroy the program? And then if that's the case, understand that 120 some dogs and animals won't be transported out. So the problem becomes back into the community. Is that what you want? Do you want Barkhouse not to be providing services? Do you not want Barkhouse to work with the county? Or is it more that you don't want Barkhouse to have the money? Because believe me when I say that $185,000 is nothing compared to what it costs to run a multi comprehensive program. It's nothing. And each of you have talked about, well, it's $80,000 is going to fees, and that's to line the executives' pockets. Guess what? We're not taking anything. Nobody's taking anything. The ones that are being paid are the workers, the ones that are the kennel cleaners, the ones that are the vet techs, the ones that are absolutely doing hands-on, and then also need to have somebody pay the logistics people that create the logistics of all of it. But the volunteers will still continue to volunteer. So I'm very, very confused at what your reasoning is. What is it you're trying to do? Why are you trying to destroy this? Give me a reason here. Help us to understand, because what's happening, folks, is you're not realizing that there's a lot of people that are involved here. These volunteers, we've got so many volunteers that have come forward on shout out to Nancy Dion and to all of her friends on next door. These women have been relentless in trying to help Barkhouse in any way possible. They provide donations of food, of clothing, of beds. They do the laundry. The county has had their washer and dryer out of service for a long, long time now. So that means that all of the laundry has to be taken. And I'm saying that's a lot of laundry, sometimes 20 bags a day, a day. And they're filled with poop and pee, and it's really a gross thing, but they're doing it. They're doing it. Why? Because they know it's helping the animals. Why? Because they don't want to have anything in those kennels that could possibly cause any kind of cross-contamination or anything to harm the animals. You all know, and if any of you have been taking care of mamas and puppies, you know that they are very, very, very vulnerable. And the level of infection and cross-contamination with parvo and distemper and giardia and kennel cough and you name it, the list goes on and on. It's very, very high risk. So it's imperative to have spotless, highly sanitized facilities, and you have to have people that know how to clean properly. So proper methods have to be put into place. And they certainly are at Barkhouse. And they certainly are, when I say Barkhouse, actually it's the county building. It's not Barkhouse's building. So let's get that straight. So it's the county building with county animals. And Barkhouse is really doing the care. There's vet techs that are on staff as well to provide medication. So these animals are constantly being taken care of in a high level fashion. Do some fall through the cracks? Of course. Is there problems where someone receives a sick animal and unfortunately sometimes they pass? It's part of rescue, folks. It's part of rescue. You can't blame someone for that. So getting back to, before I close on this, please help me to understand what each of you are trying to do in name calling and backslid and going back into 20 years ago. This is a team here. It's not just one person operating Barkhouse. I'm involved, and I personally take this as a personal assault. And I don't want to feel that way. I want to feel that we can depend upon people in the community to help with saving these animals. And why is it important to get them out and transferred into locations where we know that they will have forever homes? Is because otherwise they sit in the kennel. Is that what you guys want? Seriously, is that what you want? Because if it is, then you truly are not animal rescuers. You really are not. That's just my personal opinion. And because you're attacking The Barkhouse team, the Barkhouse team consists of a lot of people. You might not realize that. There's a foster network, there's a volunteer network, there's hands-on people that have been volunteering for a long period of time. And it hurts, folks. It hurts when you attack them personally. So if you have a solution that is better than the one that is being presented, the one that the county wants to execute, if you have a better solution, by all means, come up with that solution. But I really implore you and I ask you to do a really special thing here and take down those barriers. Look at the real prize. I think you've all lost sight of the prize. The prize is saving the animals. If you're willing to do that, then maybe we can work together. Wouldn't that be a notion? Wow. Work together. Let's do that. So let me see. We've got a couple of people here that have some comments. Dale, he says, hello, Kathy. I think what you guys are doing is fantastic. I'm sure your guys' concerns are for the health and welfare of the animals. I hope people realize what you guys are doing to help these animals. You're absolutely right. Dale, I hope that people realize that too. That's why we're doing this. And here, Ron says, you and Kelly should be proud of all the work you are doing. That makes it hard to ignore the naysayers, but you're above that. And here, Madison says, thank you for having this podcast and clearing the air. This is what I call transparency. Kudos to you and Barkhouse. Madison, I'm almost going to cry. And I'm not a crybaby, but thank you. See, all it takes is letting people know, and that's what we're doing. We're trying to let you know that we're not the enemy, folks. We're here for a reason. We're here just like you are. Okay. And anyway, that's it. I really don't have anything more to say. I see that nobody, and that isn't that amazing? You see, nobody has come forward that have been the naysayers. Now, please do me a favor, folks. Don't go behind our back and don't go start tearing this apart. And don't, if you want to tear me apart, that's fine, because I'm the one doing the broadcast. And this broadcast is coming to you via the Dog Connection Show. It's being posted on Barkhouse, but it's the Dog Connection Show. So if you want to, come after me. I'm full of the arrows for being a pioneer in the industry. And trust me when I say it's not fun being the only kid on the block that knows what it takes to get the job done. And our team, we get the job done. And that's the good thing. Get the job done. We're not the ones that sit back and say, oh, gee, well, that's not my job. That's not my job. Or this one's doing that wrong. There are no name calling. In case you didn't notice, for all of the posts that you put out there and all of the negatives, not one negative remark came from anybody from the Barkhouse team. That's class. That's class. So anyway, that's how I look at all of this. And Dale's got another comment. Maybe the people that are doing all the complaining should be some of the people that are volunteering to help. Good point. Yeah. Wouldn't that be a notion? Wouldn't that be great? So for those of you that are true, I'm going to put this up because I really like this, that are true Barkhouse believers, we have a campaign that's going to be coming on. We're inviting people that believe in miracles, believe in the good things, believe in seeing, watching a freedom flight, that taking these dogs and cats to their forever homes, following up with the feel-good stories of what a dog has experienced getting into a new home. If those are the areas that you really want to concentrate on, then jump on the Barkhouse bandwagon and be a Barkhouse believer. Join us. Don't fight us. Come forward and be part of the overall team. You are all welcome. We are not singling you out, and we would never do that. We're all part of Las Cruces, and we're here for a purpose. And if you have I'm very spiritual, so I do believe that negative energy can only be destructive. Positive energy is one that we want to create, and we want to bring people into that energy so that we can work together, not against each other. There's no reason we shouldn't be doing any name calling or hurting. So let's work together, folks. And that's it. That's all I have to say. So we're going to end the show, and hopefully you'll stay tuned to our series over the next couple of weeks. We'll be having, actually, we're going to have Joanne Ferrari on our show next Wednesday. We're going to be discussing this topic not only in Las Cruces, but also on a global basis, because rescue envy is a dangerous, dangerous thing. Rescue envy can cause a lot of destruction to a lot of good rescues and a lot of good people, because volunteers give up when they're not supported. Volunteers give up when they don't feel they matter. They need to matter. And all of us need to feel that. So before we leave, let's see here. Oh, my brother, that's my brother, folks. He says, good job. And Madison, thanks, Madison. Okay, so all right, we're going to say goodbye, and we will see you next, well, actually next week. We got shows going on every day of the week. All right, folks. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it. Bye.